Well, I'm your next speaker. Melissa already introduced me when we opened up today, but to summarize, I live in Ottawa. I love to travel. I've been a celiac for 16 years and a volunteer with the CCA for pretty much that whole time. So, welcome, Mark. Thanks for coming in today. It's my pleasure, but couldn't you have cleaned up a bit for me? Like, look, I work, I'm in school, I have cats, just deal with it. All right, I'll handle it, but go get me a coffee. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Give me a moment. Got two screens going on here, so I just need to make sure I share the right one. Share screen. This will stop the other, okay. Alrighty, everyone should be seeing my screen now. All right. Okay, so thanks everyone for
Mark, just
yep.
Put it on presentation mode.
And how do I do that? It says I'm sharing.
Just at the very bottom, there's a little like a presentation. Run the slideshow.
Well, I'll get started. Do you see my screen?
Yeah, we see your screen. It's just we see your slides running down the side. That's okay.
Oh, that's fine. I'm good with it that way. So welcome everyone to my talk. Oh, thanks for the coffee. Hard life. My name is Mark Johnson, and I go by the code name Celiac Explorer on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks for tuning into my presentation on gluten-free travel. So, I'm the president of the Ottawa chapter of the CCA, and I do various volunteer work for the CCA. I was on the board of directors before, but myself diagnosed in 2005. I've traveled to more than 60 countries since. I've managed to get to every continent. I'm very happy about that. A variety of vacation types, resorts, cruises, guided tours, independent travel. Love trying different cuisines as much as I can. So far, my favorite is East Asian. I love Asian food, which also tends to be among the most difficult to find gluten-free, of course, right? So I'm happy to bring some of my knowledge and experience to you today. So I'll start with some general tips. Bring some food along. Like bars, nuts, dry cereal, crackers, trail mix, muffins, cookies. There doesn't tend to be an issue with traveling with these kinds of things. Like you never know when you're going to be stuck somewhere. Like you might be stuck sitting on the tarmac, maybe waiting for a taxi or sitting on a bus. You never know when you might be caught in an unexpected delay. It's best to be prepared, especially knowing that it's a bit tougher to get food that suits our needs. These days, airlines, at least in North America, they have gluten-free snacks available. They might run out, though. I have found that. They might be pricey. Be ready for that. They will be pricey. So when you travel as well, celiac travel cards, these are little cards that explain the needs of someone with celiac disease, the gluten-free diet in various languages. Celiactravel.com is just one source that I've consulted for them, but there's lots of versions out there. And do your research beforehand, restaurants, stores. Even if you're going to an area of the world that does not speak a language that you do, you can still pretty much always find travel blogs or reviews in English online that you can read to get an idea of what's safe for you, like what expats have to say and that kind of thing. But first, a bit on traveling within Canada. So, of course, consult the local CCA chapter or support group, depending on your area. Many of them have restaurant lists, like our chapter in Ottawa. We have a list of restaurants that we have tried ourselves. I frequently see people posting in our Facebook group, I'm coming to such and such an area of Ottawa for business or to visit family. Like, where should I eat? What restaurants can I go to? So the local resources like the celiac scene for Vancouver Island, especially. I mentioned to Ellen, I used that a lot during a trip to Vancouver Island last month. It's where my parents live. On Via Rail, the business class includes a meal. You can choose gluten-free. It's okay. You know, it's like airline food. It's as good as it can be. Especially the gluten-free option, I find is it's not the best cuisine out there. In economy class, they have snacks that you can buy. It's not the healthiest stuff that's available. So this is another example where you may want to take some of your own snacks along. On airlines, domestic airlines, there's not going to be a meal included with your flight unless you're going business class. Request a gluten-free meal, of course. If you're back in economy with us commoners, there are gluten-free snacks available on WestJet, Air Canada, and Porter. I've tried them all, but to be safe, you might want to get something at the airport or bring your own food along just in case. Like I mentioned, things sell out, especially if you're sitting towards the back of the plane and the food cart finally gets to you and no, they don't have it. For the budget airlines in Canada, for example, Flair, I flew with Flair last week. There's no food available on board, period. You can get some super cheap fares, but you're feeding yourself. But airports, you can usually find something. It's much better than things used to be. I can guarantee that for you. And then when you're out and about traveling, there's the fallbacks. We talked with Ellen about McDonald's because we can have the fries in Canada, New York fries, Starbucks, Second Cup. They have gluten-free options available. And then restaurant chains like Boston Pizza, Eastside Mario's, The Keg, Chili's, Milestones, Mox, as you see on my slide here, they all have gluten-free options or gluten-friendly menus, as they will call it. And then the riskier choices would be your chains like Subway, pizza shops, mixed pizza shops generally, and sushi as well. Like I love sushi, but watch out for soy sauce. That often contains gluten. Artificial crab, things like tempura. It can be a pretty tough to get a safe gluten-free meal at a sushi place. So that's where you do your homework and find which restaurants can be counted on. Food delivery options, I do use those quite a bit when I'm out and about. Skip the Dishes, Uber Eats, DoorDash, they've all exploded during the pandemic, of course. A lot of places you'll find do have gluten-free menu. I shouldn't say a lot. Some places do have gluten-free menus right on there, but it may not be clear on the app. So cross-reference with the restaurant's website when you're looking at the menu on DoorDash, for example, or phone them. I do that as well. There's usually, when you are ordering through one of those apps or on your laptop, they have a comment box, like any specific requests for this item or for this order. So I always put in there, like, this is for a celiac, it needed to be strictly gluten-free. Make sure you are near your phone after you order because often they will call if there's concerns. One time someone called and said, I think there's gluten in rice. And I quizzed them a bit and they just didn't realize that rice was gluten-free naturally. I had to reassure them. Another one called and said, you ordered a sushi roll with tempura. You have to be celiac? It was an error on the menu. It didn't mention that there was tempura in that. So clearly I got something else. So, put it in all caps, be clear and call them if you have questions. The gluten-free food program, this is at gf-verified.com. It's a program the CCA has been involved with to get restaurants trained on serving safe gluten-free meals. So if you're traveling around Canada, check that out. There's restaurants listed that have gone the extra step to provide you a safe gluten-free food, and there's a few around the country. The Find Me Gluten-Free app, Ellen mentioned that too. It's probably the most comprehensive one out there. Check it out when you're traveling. I certainly use it. Leave reviews for restaurants that are close to you at home too, because it helps those coming to town. It's good to put your experiences in there, even if it's not from when you're traveling. Oh, whoops. Especially since we're these days haven't been traveling very much. Now, sorry, I'm jumping around here. Travel to the United States. I go to the US relatively often as my partner is from there. All her family is there. Do your research. There's tons of information online. Many local gluten-free or celiac organizations exist across the US. They're a little more fractured, I'd say. The CCA is like, the CCA, but in the US, there's multiple organizations. There's Facebook groups of all kinds of regional groups. So I just do searches for the areas that you're going to be in. For example, I'm in a couple Facebook groups from various areas in Ohio, which is the state I most often go to. But across the U.S., the foodie cities tend to be pretty good for gluten-free options. Austin, Texas, San Francisco, New York City, others. And then there's some chains like P.F. Chang's that I love. Chick-fil-A, Chili's, these places have gluten-free options. Disney World and Disneyland, not just the locations in the US, but the one in Paris too. I can't tell you how many positive comments I've seen about Disney for gluten-free. I've never been there myself, but it's just universal praise for them and their ability to serve gluten-free. So definitely something to consider. Cross-border shopping, now that things are slowly reopening with the Canada-US border, down the road, we might go back to cross-border shopping. A lot of people might jump across for things at Walmart, Aldi, Hannaford's, Price Chopper, also like Trader Joe's. These places have a lot of gluten-free food available. Sometimes you can get quite a bargain. Keep your receipt handy from your purchases. Be ready to show the border services officer. Like I had my car full of food one time and they just kind of took a look at my receipt and, oh yeah, that's okay. As long as you don't have any meat or dairy or produce, they're not going to care. Unless it's an absurdly high value, because you have to keep an eye on how much you can bring in duty free. I've done a number of cruises. I've always felt very well taken care of. Personally, I've only traveled with Celebrity and Royal Caribbean, but I've heard of many positive experiences with other cruise lines as well. All the ones I've listed here, and there's others. They're like Viking, the small river cruises. I hear great feedback. It's very rare that I see a celiac related complaint from someone who took a cruise. They really don't mess around when it comes to food allergies and sensitivities. So I kind of fell in love with that. Now, the most challenging places for gluten-free, in my experience, China, Taiwan, Korea, Hong Kong, that area of the world was just extremely difficult to eat safely. Eastern Europe, a lot of the former Soviet countries, so Russia, and then Eastern Europe generally, Poland, Czech Republic, depends on where you are, but it can be quite challenging. Africa, this can vary quite a bit by country. Some cuisines have a lot of naturally gluten-free food. Allergies or other sensitivities may not be fully understood, though, in other places or taken seriously. One of my brothers lived in Korea for 7 years, and he said, Mark, the chefs, the waiters, they'll tell you it's gluten-free even when it isn't, but when they really don't know. It's not nothing nefarious. It's just that they're just not familiar with this phenomenon. They're like assuming, well, you just don't like it. They don't understand all the hidden sources, the impact it has, because there's a shortage of awareness in many places of celiac disease. I was lucky to have his support when I visited. He was able to speak Korean to the waiters, but on my own, I would have been lost. One colleague of mine from work went to an Eastern African nation, and hers was a peanut allergy, but she felt they ignored it. Like they assumed, oh, you just don't like it. Try it. You'll like it. I swear you'll like it. Like, no, this is an allergy here. That said, I don't want to poo-poo too much because a past longtime member of the board of directors of the CCA's Ottawa chapter said that he was very well accommodated in Tanzania. I know he's had other good experiences in other African countries too. So these concerns are not universal. They just and I don't mean to say don't go to these places. I plan to return to all of them, but they just take a little bit more planning. Guided tours can be your friend. So some tips I want to go through with you for food, bringing items across international borders. So you don't want to bring meat or fruits and veggies, dairy. These tend to be big no-nos. I don't know if any of you out there ever watch Border Security, but I love that show, especially if you have access to the Australian edition. They have food issues all the time. You'll really learn a lot about what you can bring across international borders. The strictness varies a lot by country, though. I know some people get a doctor's note and that says they have to eat strictly gluten-free, and that's why they're bringing all this food. I've never done that, but it certainly can't hurt. Maybe you'll get someone who's asking questions, but bottom line, don't bring meat or fruits and veggies or dairy or eggs. So do your research, research your restaurants, check travel blogs. Often vegan and vegetarian restaurants are a little better for gluten-free. I found that as a backup in places that I found very difficult to eat gluten-free. Jordan, Russia, Poland come to mind for places where I went to vegetarian restaurants and was able to eat gluten-free. You know, it's something. Eating on the airplane, pre-order your meal, of course. So international flights, maybe not for the Caribbean, but if you're going elsewhere, tend to have a meal included. If you pre-ordered it when you booked, phone again a week before the flight to make sure your reservation has not been lost, or check online. I know Air Canada indicates the choice of meal on the website. You can choose your special meal. A lot of other airlines have that too, but on several occasions I've had the reservation lost. Like, oh no, we don't have any gluten-free meal. Did you request it? Well, yes, but a lot of good this does me now when I'm already on the flight, right? And when you're on the flight, when you get the meal, verify. Does it say gluten-free on it? Truth be told, I've been handed it said vegetarian. I'm like, oh, this is not, I mean, some stuff here might be gluten-free, but so does it say gluten-free? Does everything in there seem to be gluten-free? Like there's been a couple times where I've looked at the roll they gave me and like, here, to my wife, you can have this. I'm going to play it safe. But you know, they understand there is going to be some risk, even if it is completely like made with the intention of being completely gluten-free. It's like eating in a restaurant. There is some chance of cross-contamination. Word of advice, if you're a celiac that gets gastro symptoms and you're traveling on a plane, maybe get a seat not too far from the toilet. If you pay to pre-book your seat, those ones also tend to be cheaper because they're closer to the back. And so when you're in other countries, check with the local celiac organizations too. You may be surprised at how helpful they can be. You may have to translate their content, but you know, it's not that hard to do it these days with Google Translate. And then when you're in the country, you know, I love to go to the local supermarkets. I always like to look at the shelves and see what gluten-free items they have, farmers markets, you know, get these experiences. For fast food, check the websites. This varies quite a bit by country. For example, the McDonald's fries in the United States are not safe for us, but they are safe in Canada, except if you order it at a Walmart, a separate issue. But in Europe, you know, there's McDonald's burgers that are gluten-free. I've tried the gluten-free burgers in Finland and Sweden and Spain, Austria, and Hungary. I know they're also available in Norway, Portugal, and Switzerland too. And it's easy on the machine. You don't have to worry about language barriers because they always have an English option. So when you're shopping, don't rely on Google Translate. I certainly use it. And when it's an app on your phone, it can be helpful, like to use the camera thing. But it's tough to interpret ingredient lists when it's not your native language or a language you speak. Don't assume that gluten has to be declared. And you might see mystery ingredients like hydrolyzed vegetable protein. And what's the vegetable? Could be wheat, could be soy, could be corn. Like how labeling used to be in Canada many years ago, if for those of you who remember that. I try to rely a lot on naturally gluten-free foods, your eggs, regular cheese, fruits and veggies. You can also count on what I call universal brands like Dr. Share, for example. Shout out to them because there's traveling the world. There's no brand I've seen in more countries than Dr. Share. It's always refreshing when I see them on the shelf. I'm like, oh, good, I can eat that. I don't need to know the language of the country. You know I can eat Dr. Share's products. So and for apps, you know, be careful. The Find Me gluten-free app can be helpful, but it's not perfect. Staff change at restaurants, menus change. A fabulous experience 2 years ago might be followed by a terrible one today. You know, look for recent reviews as much as you can. Call the restaurant if you're not sure. Sometimes I message them on Facebook to see if if there is a language barrier. You can message them and then use translation to try to get through. And then these are the symbols here are gluten-free symbols that you might see around the world. I know Megan had some of these in her presentation. So the big one is the UK gluten-free symbol. I'd say it's the one I see most often across the world. And then sin, tac, sin, gluten. These are Spanish. Sin, tac is from Argentina, but I know other countries in South America have it too. Sin, gluten was from Spain. And then the The certification logo that hopefully you've all seen in Canada is the blue one in the bottom left, and then the green one right beside it is in the United States, the equivalent. And the other three are also, I believe, all from the United States too. So these are what you might see going around the world. Now, when you're getting lodging on your trip, hotels can be good for a kitchenette. I look for an apart hotel. Is there breakfast? If it's a continental breakfast, you're probably not getting a whole lot of options. Like continental to me means, okay, I'll probably get an apple. But if it's a full breakfast, you can check on it, contact them to see if there's gluten-free options. And if you're in a jam, the hotel room coffee machine, you can boil water for oatmeal or soup. Very often I get an Airbnb. First of all, it's often cheaper. Second of all, you can tailor your location a bit better if you don't want to be like center of the tourist area. I'd pick one that's near grocery stores, transit, with a private kitchen. Some cities have had great success with that, but you want to clean the kitchen when you get there, make sure dishes are clean. Aluminum foil can be your friend. Put it on cookie sheets, put it on barbecues, and toaster bags are those little sleeves that you can put a piece of bread in and then put it in a contaminated toaster to protect your bread. If you're going to be barbecuing a lot, you might want to bring one of those silicone sheets to go over a barbecue. I know Costco and Canadian Tire have those. And lastly, a bed and breakfast, you can get more personalized service. You find that people want to accommodate there, helps them get good reviews. That's their lifeblood. So check in advance and call them, check reviews and so forth. So traveling in unfamiliar countries, group tours can be good. Meals are often included or arranged, and you have a guide that can negotiate for you. In China, this was a lifesaver for me because she negotiated with the restaurants, the street vendors, whatever, with the travel card to clearly make sure this is serious. So take those cards along, very handy. Let them keep it. Maybe they'll hang it in the kitchen. Now, all-inclusive resorts, this is where a lot of Canadians love to go in the winter. Again, take the language cards, whether or not English is the first language. Buffets, be very careful, of course. I like to get there when it opens, so you can get there before people have put things in different places. Talk to a manager, talk to the chef with your travel card. Use the a la carte restaurants as much as you can. I try to go to them as much as I can. You get the one-on-one attention, right? And you can bring some food with you to the resort. It's never been a problem for me, provided you avoid the meat in that. There's usually going to be a mini fridge in the room. I often get the question though, like what resort is great for gluten-free? Well, I've been to Cuba, I think 12 times, all different resorts every time. I've always been able to find gluten-free food. There's a big difference between now and when I went first back in 2005. Like now they know what celiac disease is. And I hear great stories about visits to Mexico too. I was married in Jamaica. I ate fabulously there. I can't emphasize this enough. Please pay it forward. Remember to thank and tip helpful wait staff as appropriate. Tipping customs vary by country, and tip tour guides who help you find safe gluten-free food. Like TripAdvisor, Yelp, do reviews on the resorts, the hotels, the restaurants. You can leave a Google review or comments on their Facebook page. Post about your experience in the Find Me Gluten-Free app as well. Tell your friends, share it on social media, advertise your great experience. Even you can tag the restaurant, they love that. Me, I started a travel blog to pay it forward. A bit of self-promotion here, but it's okay because there's no money involved. I just do this to help others. Please follow me, share your comments, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and then the blog page on WordPress where I do longer posts, not recently because of COVID, but that's really where you will find me. So to conclude, please don't let being a celiac stop you from traveling. Face the challenge, like we talked about earlier. Be your own advocate. When in Rome, try to try the local food, if possible, if you can find it gluten-free. And remember, the world continues to change. Things are getting better. I've noticed a lot of improvement since I was diagnosed in Canada and across the world. Canada is good for gluten-free, but so are many other countries. When it's safe to do so, please explore them. So thanks very much for your time.